it's good in synergy with a couple other compounds, and it can have a great effect that way. But other than that, I look at it as a
What's up, guys? Derek, moreplates.com. Today we are going to be reacting to how this PED got so popular, featuring Coach Trevor. I at first thought this was going to be a video about Nubane, and not really a PED, but something that was heavily abused in the 90s and Coach Trevor has talked many times about. But I don't know why I just assumed it was going to be, about that, but it ended up being about Tren. I watched about 30 seconds of it when I heard the word Tren came up, and I was like, okay, fuck, I will rewind this, put on the camera, and react to it, because I was gonna watch it anyways, and figured I might give some, unique insight, as this is a drug that is being heavily abused, not only by the fitness industry in general, but also at increasingly younger ages nowadays, with literal fucking teens taking probably the most psychoactive compound in the entire bodybuilding world. If you've seen one of my most popular videos, I guess at this point, is actually, if you sort by popular, 14-year-old on Tren. Yeah, it's getting fucking wild, dude. It's getting fucking wild out there. So anyways, we're gonna listen to Trevor talk about Trenbolone, and maybe we can lay some myths to rest, and or provide some education, or I'll just react to what he's fucking saying. I guess we'll see.
Let's get to everybody's favorite topic. I think these guys know what I'm going to start with. The T. Well, maybe they don't know what I'm going to ask.
I have an idea. It starts with the P.
Everyone's got questions about Tren all the time, and why? I mean, I think there's like a subset of people that don't even understand that Tren is like part of like steroids. Like they just mention it. They say, "Oh, that guy's on Tren," but they don't really have any idea. I also think there's a subset of people that think they can like go to their doctor and get Tren prescribed to them.
Great.
And unless you know Dr. Tony Huge, that most likely is not the scenario, right?
Yeah, what's kind of wild is nowadays there's actually some HRT clinics out there that will prescribe Tren. Like, it's fucked up. They'll just like sell you UGL shit and be like, "Yep, it's like pharma. It's pharma Tren," because of course we all know that Finiplex, or I guess I should say Parabolan, is no longer, hasn't been manufactured since the fucking 80s, as far as I know, by Negma Pharmaceuticals, which is the original pharmaceutical manufacturer of Trenbolone for clinical applications, which was used in androgen-sensitive women, actually, and it was used at a dosage of, I think it had like a front load of like 3 amps a month or something, and then it would go down to 1 amp every, I don't know. Let me go check my article, actually. By the way, funny thing, I am actually ranked first on Google for Tren Cow. If you have not typed in Tren Cow before, if you never thought to type that in, you may be surprised when you type in Tren Cow and you happen to see me here stacked up against a fucking Belgian Blue, going head to head with him for the fucking, I don't know, just out angling the shit out of him, me versus Belgian Blue on Tren. So anyways, being ranked first for Tren Cow, quite an honor, but the article in question is Trenbolone dosage for cattle versus humans. Basically, I delve into some of the human data on Trenbolone, and a lot of people don't realize, first of all, that Finiplex H is used in cows, and actually very interesting too is the fact that lean tissue accrual is superior in these cows that are receiving shots of Tren plus estradiol in them. That sort of gets into the conversation of the test base and the efficacy of having something that's a substrate for aromatase in your stack. I've talked about that in videos before, but just a interesting side tangent. But Trenbolone dosage for humans, Parabolan was the brand name of Trenbolone manufactured by Negma Pharmaceuticals. No human trials were published, and it was pulled from the market, in 97 actually. Not that, well, it's long ago, but I mean, I thought it was further out than that, to be honest. The Tren dosage used in a clinical setting for humans was 376 milligram Parabolan ampules per month. So these were the original amps. And as you can see here are this is like the insert, if you've ever gotten a full box of a drug like a finasteride or a fucking modafinil or whatever, it comes with a insert, and it has a breakdown of contraindications and whatnot, what the actual composition of it is, etc. And as you can see here, we even have like the breakdown of how much alcohol is in here and then how much hexahydrobenzyl carbonate of Trenbolone there is. You know, this is obviously in French, I believe, unless I'm an idiot. I would imagine this, I imagine this would be French, as this was indeed produced in France, if I recall correctly, via Negma. But anyways, ultimately 376 milligrams per month, 376 milligram amps per month equated to approximately 50 milligrams of Tren per ampule after cleaving off the ester. This had a front load period of 3 amps over the first 15 days, followed by a maintenance phase of 1 amp every 10 days thereafter, approximately. So basically this would break down to 114 milligrams of Tren hex per week for the first 2 weeks. If you don't know what hex is, it's a longer ester that is not, you know, you're probably used to seeing acetate and enanthate in the underground scene. Is hex more potent or something? No, it's not. This is just the ester chosen in the pharmaceutical preparation. Tren hex in the underground also exists, but it does not hold any inherent superiority. It's just a different ester. 114 milligrams per week for the first 2 weeks, 76 milligrams per 10 days thereafter. This is what it looked like. And we will get into more of the data perhaps after I hear him speak further on it.
So, what is the allure with Tren? Why is it so popular? Is it a great drug? Like, I don't know. Or is it too dangerous? What do you think?
It goes both ways. I think the allure behind it is just the side effects. I think people judge steroids with side effects nowadays. So the more side effects you get from it, the better the drug is.
I agree. You know, that is something I definitely see, especially when it comes to orally active agents. You know, guys will say Dianabol, so potent compared to something like Anavar, when in reality, on paper, are they really accruing different amounts of contractile tissue? Like, I guess tit for tat, if you compare something that's, you know, has estrogen, you know, produced versus something that doesn't. Obviously, if you ran them solo, there's gonna be a bit of a different response. But I mean, like in general, if you have enough sufficient estrogen, then you're just comparing the actual anabolic activity of like D-bol versus Anadrol versus Anavar versus whatever. A lot of times people are placing the, you know, they're contingent upon the side effects as their perception of how potent the compound is. So they get on D-bol, they gain 10 pounds of water in a few weeks, their bench press blows up by like 30 to 40 pounds. And then they assume because they're bigger and like hyperinflated and their fucking blood pressure is like essentially, you know, hypertensive crisis. Now that doesn't happen with D-bol at reasonable doses, but you know, the doses people use with the diets they're typically doing when they're on D-bol, you know, they end up in like hypertensive crisis, but their fucking bench is skyrocketing. They're, you know, way bigger than they were just 4 weeks ago versus Anavar, which is like so subtle. It's so lean because it's not going to bloat the shit out of you like the Michelin Man at, you know, exorbitant dosages. And it seems to be like weaker perspective wise to somebody who doesn't understand that they are simply perceiving the side effects of something like D-bol as potency, when in reality, the drug is not producing more lean tissue than the other. Rather, it is producing more temporary changes that are, you know, cosmetic changes, and you see them very quickly come on. So you just assume, oh, better gains, more gains, when in reality, it is simply not the case. And I imagine with Tren, you know, people really feel some shit when they're on it, so they might misinterpret that as more potency. And it also has other benefits that, like, actually, frankly, edge it out as a superior compound in certain aspects, like cutting. But anyways,
you know, and it's a very backwards way of thinking, but truly, especially traveling the world in all these different countries that I've been to, I'll tell you right now, the people with the worst physiques are the people who are just after the most side effects. Like, oh, this works so good. Look, I'm bloated. I can't eat. I'm sick. And
I want to pause you just for 1 second because this sounds completely irrational, but we do the same thing with recreational drugs. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, that fucking pot messed me up, but let me try this DMT or let me try, right? So this is not like just for steroid abusers.
But also in the gym, like, dude, that workout fucked me up. Like, let's do that again, you know, right?
I see the same thing even when it comes to like nootropics. You see somebody, they take, I don't know, cholinergic, something that is, you know, going to heavily influence, you know, motor unit recruitment, force production in the gym, and downstream may help with, you know, offsetting neurodegenerative disease and or helping with information retention, mental acuity, sharpness, things that may be more imperceptible, if that's even a fucking word, like harder, more subtle like changes in information retention or memory formation, you're probably not going to notice significantly. However, if you take a fuckload of like an ADHD drug, like an Adderall, you're like, holy shit, you know, your fucking attention, your energy, etc. goes through the roof. Your dopaminergic activity is fucking sky high. You're like, this is like a nootropic. This is a smart drug. When in reality, something like a cholinergic may be more useful from an actual memory formation aspect, like using something that is an acetylcholine precursor and or an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor. These kind of things actually help in the development and formation of like actually fucking wiring yourself properly to be capable of absorbing and assimilating information and whatnot versus something that is, you know, just cranking up your motivation slash energy levels, which, you know, in itself has certain applications. Like obviously if you have like fucking mental fatigue or, you know, like there's obviously performance enhancing elements to stimulants in a athletics aspect 100%. But people will often look to the, you know, the heavy fucking stimulant as this is the only performance enhancing element. And the thing I don't feel and like notice and have like a very blatant change immediately probably does fucking nothing when it's really not the case whatsoever. And muscle growth is slow, dude. Like the slow accrual of tissue over time, it's a fucking long drawn out process of actually like building up that new proteins and slapping on new tissue. This is not something that happens in a matter of 4 weeks where you can actually attribute it to, you know, oh, the Dianabol is like way more potent than this, when in reality, you've just like packed on like shitty water weight.
Like we kind of do chase that weird
quads hanging off your leg.
that made me sore. You're like, let's do it next time till we puke.
Yeah.
Hangovers and alcohol. Like it's, yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, it does have its place. It really does. But by itself, is it a great? No. It's good in synergy with a couple other compounds, and it can have a great effect that way. But other than that, I look at it as no, not at all. It really is not. Especially with the side effects. There's a reason why they brought Tren into the market I believe by Negma.
Pat Project family, is TRT or HRT something that you've been interested in? Well, if you are, that's why we've partnered with Merrick Health, owned by Derek for more plates.
Oh shit.
Telehealth, TRT, and HRT.
Fuck yeah, dude.
About Merrick.
Dude, I swear to God, I did not plan this. We do sponsor Power Project, but I was not expecting us to get a plug in the video I'm fucking reacting to, so that's wild. Continue.
That is so unique about them is that versus every other telehealth clinic out there, they give you direct plans for you specifically. Many clinics give you just plans that they give to everybody else, but we
Cookie cutters.
are individuals. We have different hormonal levels. We need unique plans. That's why you need to check out Merrick Health. And Andrew, can you tell the people how to do it?
Yes, over at merrickhealth.com, MAREK health.com. When it comes time to actually purchasing these labs and paying for them, if you're talking to somebody on the phone, you can just mention promo code PowerProject15, or if you are manually checking out on your own, you can enter promo code PowerProject15 to save 15% off all labs. Links to them down in the description, as well as the podcast show notes. Let's get back to the video.
And they brought it in for a human
Yeah, like why are these things around? Like what's the deal? What's the deal with that?
And then the thing is, they had to make it under Parabolan, the name Parabolan, and put an ester to this that makes it so slow for your body to break down, longer than equipoise, right?
Yeah, so this ester, hexahydrobenzyl carbonate, longer than an anthate. And Trevor's claiming it's even longer than fucking boldenone undesolinate, which is one of the, well, like the actual ester, undesolinate is a very, very, very long. If you know how long the half-life of EQ is, it is because of the traditional undesolinate ester. And I believe it's in the multiple weeks.
And because of the side effects and because of the toxicity of it, if they gave it to you in a form of an acetate or a base version, there's so much that you get at once that it caused way too many side effects, and people would get, there's no way they could justify it. So they did this, and it still ended up getting taken off the market. So, I mean, it's that'll tell you something.
Can't get Parabolan anymore? He's like, I didn't say that.
not under that name, but yes, you can.
What's the world coming to?
I haven't even heard of that one.
So interestingly enough, like I mentioned how it's prescribed for androgen sensitive individuals, like this is literally a prescription regimen designed for fucking women, believe it or not. So This is commonly seen as, what's the anabolic to androgenic rating of different compounds. You see, testosterone 100 to 100. You see other compounds that have different ratings. And Trenbolone has somehow gotten this rating of 500 to 500, leading people to believe that this compound is 5 times more anabolic per milligram and 5 times more androgenic per milligram than testosterone, when in reality, this shit was being used in people who can't handle testosterone. That is the entire reason a steroid is developed, is to improve upon the tissue selectivity of the base molecule that it's been derived from and fucking tweak and modify it to make it superior to be tolerable in the androgen sensitive, like women, potentially fucking children, etc. Like, have you seen some of the fucking dosages for anadrol in children? Wild shit, bro. So anyways, to continue.
What? Yeah. It's just Tren.
By the way, that does not mean that you should use Tren or your girl should use Tren. I'm just saying a common misconception, because a lot of people would be baffled that this shit was prescribed for women, but like, that was the logic behind it at the time, several decades ago. Let's continue.
Tren.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah, it's just Tren, but it's just a longer acting ester, right?
Yeah, the hex ester. It was Negma was the pharmaceutical company who produced it, and again, it was taken off the market pretty quick. I mean, now there's even studies.
Why was it even put on the market though? Like,
some bodybuilders were
pushing it,
or Olympics. I would say more so with the Olympic teams and stuff, probably.
But it doesn't have like a medical.
Interestingly, well, it did have a medical purpose, but one drug that didn't, Trenbolone, was designed by, I believe, Genopharm entirely for the purposes of doping in the Olympics. It had absolutely no application in a clinical setting whatsoever. Trenbolone, on the other hand, actually did. This was actually prescribed for like real fucking clinical applications, all but short-lived.
No, a regular
doctor can't prescribe it to you.
But imagine though.
So why is it made though? I don't understand.
If you go back in time, like 40 years or so, when these things were, when they were trying to push for it, there's no research. They didn't know what the hell it was. They just look at a piece of paper and it says, well, look at, the androgenic and anabolic rate, and look at what this can do for, muscle sparing, and this person had muscle wasting, and look at the positive effects it had, and don't show them the negative effects. And, that's just how they work when it comes to putting drugs on the market.
Hey, you, before you leave, listen up. I need you to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Also ring that notification bell, because we continue to bring you peak content. So don't leave us hanging. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the notification bell, and we will see you soon.
All right, bro. I am going to do that. What do I comment? Tren cow. All right, that is a good one. All right, so that's what I think in general about Tren. I think it is a very overhyped compound. Like, it's seen as like the god steroid. It's the thing that's going to make or break a physique in a competitive aspect. I mean, like, if you're preparing for a competition, does it have a, application? It's very good at what it does in a recomp scenario. It is potent at antagonizing glucocorticoid receptors, so it has unique anti-catabolic properties that frankly edge it out over certain compounds in a retention / muscle preservation, protein degradation offsetting aspect that otherwise is hard to stack up to. But from like an actual anabolic, like building new muscle aspect, is it that much better than, other anabolics you could be using that are more well tolerated, like a Parabolan or whatever? Like, obviously, anecdotally, like fucking 200 milligrams of Tren is going to build more muscle in general, it would seem, than 200 milligrams of Primo. But like, ultimately, when you're looking at this from a long-term perspective, what is the kind of approach to cycle design that is going to lead to the least organ stress, the longest potential for, actually engaging in these kind of performance-enhancing endeavors, with the minimal burden to your organ systems, whilst still producing, as good of gains, just using more sensible product choices, essentially. Like, I think Tren should be reserved for like, not emergencies necessarily, but things that actually really warrant its use over other agents, like in a actual contest preparation scenario. Do you need Tren? Does it make more sense to use it then? Sure, it probably makes more sense then. If you're just fucking building muscle in the off season, do you need to be using it? I don't think so. I think you can use more well-tolerated things. You can get very far with bioidentical testosterone for sure. There are a lot of things that, frankly, I think are going to be just as decent in a muscle building aspect. I think it gets a lot of hype, unjustifiably so in some cases. And that is that. You know, very interesting compound, very interesting to see it growing in notoriety over the years, and interesting and scary to see how young the fucking kids are that are starting to deploy this shit when they really have no business touching it. You know, this shit is very, very potent, not only in a interaction with androgen receptor and like all the shit it does from a muscularity and performance aspect, but the psychoactive effects on the brain, the psychological changes that may ensue from this shit, potentially permanent alterations to brain chemistry. Like some of the most fucked up scenarios we see in these kind of like, you know, stories, like bad scenarios of guys reacting poorly to compounds, it very often involves Trenbolone. And I actually talked with Andrew Huberman recently about his, he's a neuroscience professor at Stanford, and he also has tons of background historical research in the lab on the effect of androgens on like prenatal androgen exposure, you know, the development of humans as they go through, you know, adolescence and whatnot, exposure to androgens in fucking rodent models and humans, etc. And he knows kind of the ins and outs of what you should expect from stuff in as reasonable of a, you know, educated guess format as you can, because obviously you're not going to actually do a study on exposing teens to Tren, but he speculates there would be permanent changes for the negative. And, you know, I would speculate that as well. So definitely be careful with this shit. If you are a teenager, frankly, I think there is no need to be reaching for something like this. So that is my stance on Tren. I think there are much safer alternatives, and I think it is often reached to far too soon, or unjustifiably so, when there are other safer things you could be doing that frankly could produce identical outcomes in the long-term scheme of things. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoy that. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplacementdates.com, follow me on Instagram at moreplacementdates. Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Get high quality medical oversight from doctors who actually understand. I don't even need to do the breakdown. Fuck, Ensema did a pretty good job. So I will skip the Merrick Health plug, video description below though. Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode pre-workout formulas. I designed myself from scratch. My recommended diet model for gaining muscle and sports performance, as well as anything else I'm associated with. It is all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.